7-year-old Mark Tilsley from Wokingham. Despite a huge police inquiry, there's still no trace of Mark. It's a long shot, perhaps, hoping for new witnesses a year on. After all, hundreds of people have already tried to help. But Thames Valley Police have asked us to use the anniversary, which was 2 weeks ago now, to film a reconstruction and see if we could still jog a memory and provide a new and vital clue. Mark's home is in Wokingham, 10 miles from Reading in Berkshire.
The fair was back in Wokingham this weekend, on the same ground at Wellington Road, where it's been each May or June for 50 years. Mark's home, too, was in the centre of Wokingham. The fair was a 5-minute bike ride away. It's 50 miles away on Friday, the 1st of June last year at 7:20 in the morning. A lorry stops for a hitchhiker on the A30.
Going to Wokingham? Yeah.
The driver, Shane Northway, picked up his passenger 20 miles east of Salisbury, just outside Stockbridge. He remembers the man well.
He had there was a little bit of odour there, and you could see he'd been sleeping rough. There was dirt all around the collar of his shirt. His Mac was really filthy on the inside, red lining. Where you going, mate?
I'm making my way around country looking for work.
He was in the cab with me for about 2 3/4 hours, and I eventually dropped him off just past the fairground in Wokingham.
You can drop me off here, mate, if you like. It'll do me.
I'll just pull down the road out the way of the traffic.
All right.
When the man got out, he headed back up Wellington Road towards the fairground. It was a busy time on the main road, and someone must have seen him.
Bye-bye, Mark. See you later.
Mark's mother left home at 5:15 that evening to go to work. She hasn't seen Mark since.
Bye.
Mark left the house half an hour later, telling his father he was going to the fair. He was a quiet, shy boy, often to be seen on his bike in the town centre. The tiger jacket he wore that day was eye-catching and distinctive. Eyewitness accounts confirm that Mark was at the fair by 6:30 that evening. 2 witnesses recall that a man appeared to be watching Mark. Police are also certain that an hour and a quarter later, Mark was still at the fair, now on the Dodgems. It's possible that the man who was with him was the same man who earlier had been watching him. He was about 6 feet tall, with scruffy hair, very similar to the man dropped off earlier in the day by the lorry driver. Except this man had glasses. About 8 p.m, Mark leaves the fairground with the same man. Though he left his bike behind, Mark appears to have left the fair quite willingly.
Correct for 2 points. Challenge or tell me yourself.
It was this man, David Hine, who may have been the last person to see Mark Tildesley that Friday evening. If it was Mark, he was in Langborough Road, apparently with the same man he'd been with at the fair. Mark has never been seen again. His mother still refuses to believe the worst.
I still say someone's got him and they're living rough or something, because it's a mother's instinct. I know he's all right.
Well, we still hope so. Detective Superintendent Tony Miller is now in charge of this investigation. Now, how likely is it that the hitchhiker, the man there at the fair, and the man we just seen in Langborough Road are one and the same man, in fact?
quite frankly, we can't say positively. What I can say is I'm fairly sure that the man seen at the fair and the man in Langborough Road are one and the same. You will recall the description given of the man who had the lift by the lorry driver. It's not dissimilar to the man at the fairground. In fact, he was about 45 to 60 years of age. He had grey hair, browning, and indeed he was described as having a long nose. This was a feature about him, and also a beard growth, which indeed matched the man who was given the lift.
Now, the man seen at the fair had spectacles on, so if we look at our video fit, we can see what he might look like with glasses on. Right. Now, the hitchhiker in the lorry wasn't wearing any glasses, was he?
Indeed he wasn't, and indeed the man in Langborough Road wasn't. But other than that, the descriptions are very, very similar.
So what you want to do is for the man who was hitchhiking that ride in the lorry that day to at least come forward so that you can eliminate him?
Indeed we would, yes.
Well, if we can recap on his movements that day, the lorry driver picked up the hitchhiker on Friday the 1st of June, and that was just west of Stockbridge, and at 7:20 in the morning. They then travelled up the A30 and along the M3, and reached Wokingham at about 10 to 10, again that morning, and the driver dropped him off in Wellington Road, near to the fair. Now, do we know where he went after that?
We don't, but perhaps we could start by going back to the commencement of that journey, and you will recall that he had a tachograph in his hand,
We can see it there.
and as the viewers can see. The reason I take you back there is because indeed this man may have been a lorry driver. If he was, other persons may have given him a lift from Wokingham. If, in fact, they did, we'd like them to come forward.
We should say that anybody who hitches the lift with one of the tachograph is saying to a lorry driver that he's another lorry driver.
Indeed, that gives the indication, yes. In addition to that, there was a conversation by this man with the lorry driver to the effect he was looking for casual labour fruit picking. I'd like to hear from anyone who gave employment of that nature to a man of that description.
So somebody might remember picking up somebody with a tachograph, because that was quite distinctive.
Indeed they might. As we've emphasised, if nothing else, we want to eliminate this man from the inquiry.
Right. Now, you've traced so far about 400 people who were actually at the fair on that day. How many more people do you think you need to see? How many more people were there?
I can't answer how many people were there, but what I can say is I want to speak to every person who went at the fair that evening. Indeed, let us be the judge of what they saw as to whether it's of evidential value. Please come forward and contact us.
And just once again, we've seen the jacket in the film. Let's have one more look at it. You brought it a facsimile of the jacket in with the tiger motif.
Indeed. That's the jacket, or very similar to the jacket that Mark was wearing. And that might indeed attract the attention of persons that night.
Right, so to sum up, you need to find the hitchhiker on that day, the one who hitched a ride in the lorry, anybody else who was at the fair that day to come forward, who hasn't come forward already, and the man in Langborough Road, who was seen in Langborough Road towards the evening.
Indeed we would. In addition to that, I would also like to say, as a parent, as I'm sure many of the viewers are parents, we can only imagine the anguish this family have faced over the last 12 months. We will pursue the inquiry relentlessly. Please, if anyone has any information additional to what we've asked for, please come forward and contact us.
Thank you very much indeed. And if you think you know anything that might help us to find Mark, here's the number again, 01 811 8055. Or you can ring Thames Valley Police at Reading on 0734 585 111. That's 0734, the code for Reading, 585 111.
Please now try to think back to what you were doing on the afternoon and the evening of Good Friday. Sometime on that first day of the Easter bank holiday, someone murdered a young woman by drowning and left her in a lake just outside Maidenhead in Berkshire. Now, you'll have read about it, the Shani Warren case. It was one of those crimes that capture the front pages. In part, that was because Shani was young, blonde and photogenic. But you may recall the headlines were fuelled by an unfortunate public suggestion by one detective that Shani may have committed suicide, that despite the fact Shani had been gagged and bound hand and foot. In fact, the night before the murder, Shani, far from suffering depression, had seemed positively happy.
Good evening.
On the Thursday before Easter, Roger Pell, an old boyfriend of Shani's, had gone out with her for dinner in Maidenhead. They'd not met for several months. She'd rung him out of the blue. They both enjoyed the evening and arranged to meet again.
In fact, you can do it like this.
She seemed as happy and relaxed as ever.
I'll learn to master these, I will.
Despite her late night, Shani was up early on Good Friday and drove to Gerrard's Cross to her parents' home. She'd arranged to pick up an extension lead for her electric lawnmower. Shani was 26, the youngest of 3 children. Her father, Joe, works from home, Her mother had gone that Easter weekend to the family flat in Bournemouth, where Joe and Shani were due to join her on Sunday lunchtime.
Here's the lead. I've put a plug on it for you.
Oh, thank you, Dad.
That should be long enough for what you want.
Great, thank you.
Just as she left, she wondered who should do the driving when they went down to Bournemouth on Sunday to join her mother. Her father agreed he'd pick Shani up from home.
Okay.
Okay, Dad.
Bye-bye.
See you Sunday.
Okay, sweet.
Take care.
Drive carefully.
I will. See you Sunday.
Shani lived just 10 minutes from her parents at Stoke Poges near Slough. It took her till early afternoon to mow both the back lawn and the front. She planned to take the clippings to the compost heap at her parents' home. Shani shared her house with two lodgers, Katie and Fiona. All three girls pottered round that afternoon, and Shani seemed to have no firm plans for the evening.
Well, I was tidying my room. It must have been about 6 o'clock in the evening. I glanced outside of the window and Shani was putting the grass cuttings in the black bin liners into the back of her car. She got in the car and drove off down the close.
Just as Shani drove off, her mother phoned from Bournemouth but missed her. She never got the chance to speak to her again. 5 miles from Shani's home at the Taplow Lake lay-by on the A4 outside Maidenhead. At about 10 to 7, someone saw a black car which seemed to be in difficulty. The lay-by is used regularly as an overnight truck stop.
About 1:30, 1:45, I came into the lay-by from the far end. I saw the car, so I dipped my lights thinking it was a courting couple. Drove past it, reversed in behind it, and the car was still there. As I came to put a padlock on the back of my trailer, I noticed the door wasn't shut properly, but didn't think anything more of it, so I just went home then.
The next morning, the driver, Donald Ward, returned to his trailer.
It struck me as being odd that someone would leave an A-registered car with the door obviously not locked, but I assumed that it had broken down and that whoever owned it had gone for a recovery vehicle of some sort. But other than that, I didn't pay any great attention to it.
Many Easter drivers may have stopped on this section of the A4. The lay-by is just 5 minutes from the centre of Maidenhead on the London side. If you did stop or even pass there, you might have seen the car. And the Paddington-Reading railway line also gives a good view of the lay-by. Some 50 trains went past here between 6 and 9 p.m. on that Good Friday. The car was still here the following afternoon.
Me and my wife Carol was coming down this lane, Easter Saturday, about 2 o'clock-ish, 1:30, 2, and we saw the black Vauxhall. And the door was open about 1 to 2 inches. And we just rode past, and about 45 minutes later we turned round and came back, and the car was still there.
At 6:30, a woman walking her dog discovered Shani's body floating face down in the lake. She'd been gagged. Her feet had been loosely bound with her own tow rope. A jump lead was round her hands behind her back. The other jump lead, later found in the lake, had been fastened round her neck. Shani died by drowning. Forensic tests have failed to establish time of death, but it seems likely she died on the Good Friday evening. When police examined the Cavalier, the driver's seat was reclined and a blank card in an envelope was on the floor. Shani's lighter was on the passenger seat. In front, on the floor, were the empty grass sacks and her watch. And under the steering column was an Easter egg intended for Roger Pell. Nearby, in the undergrowth, they found Shani's credit card holder, her tow rope bag, and a thank you card to Roger for the dinner on that Thursday night. When the police tried to move the car, they found it had gearbox problems. The Cavalier's shift selector had slipped, and it could only be driven in 3rd and 4th gear. The detective now in charge of the case is Superintendent John Tildesley. Let's get this clear. We are now talking about a murder inquiry, not a suicide.
We have always dealt with this as a murder inquiry from the very outset.
Right. Now, there's no definite motive, is there?
No, there is no injury to the body, there is no property that's been stolen, so there is no obvious murder.
Yet there must have been thousands, literally thousands of potential witnesses. This is Good Friday. This is the A4. There must have been thousands of people driving up and down between, well, after the hour of about 6 p.m. on that Friday evening.
Yes, and we're interested in anybody who drove past that lay-by from 6 p.m. on Good Friday evening. As you say, it was a very busy period. We would like particularly anybody who saw vehicles driving into or out of the lay-by to come forward, anybody who saw the black Cavalier in the lay-by, and anyone acting suspiciously in the area. Just so that people can get a fix on what that lay-by is, it's just the London side of Maidenhead. It's actually a road in itself, isn't it? In fact, it was originally the A4. It's the old A4, which has now been bypassed and consists of about 300 yards of old road. In particular, obviously, you want anybody who has seen a car broken down there, anybody who went into that lay-by. There was a car seen broken down about a couple hundred yards away, wasn't there? Yes, there was a black saloon car about 200 yards Maidenhead side of the lay-by with the bonnet up and a man looking under the bonnet. We'd be interested to trace this man because this car may in fact have been Shani's vehicle, or if it not, we want to eliminate it. Right. Now, there are a whole series of other things. She may have well, she must have dumped the grass cuttings somewhere. Now, thousands of people would have dumped grass cuttings on Good Friday. They'll have been out mowing their lawns. Anybody who looked like Shani, you want to trace? Well, Shani was a very attractive young lady, a blonde 26-year-old, driving a very smart car, and the sort of person you would have looked at twice. We have no sightings of Shani at present time from after she left home at 6 o'clock. She might, of course, have been seen making a phone call as well. That's a possibility. If the car broke down in that lay-by, there are 2 phone boxes about a quarter of a mile either side of the lay-by where she could have made a call. This is a replica of a fob and her keyring. These are missing, the original missing. They are indeed. And we would like to trace these keys. We've made a search of the lake and the surrounding area, and it may be that someone has come across these keys and disposed of them, or perhaps they even know somebody who's got them in their possession. And obviously we'd be very interested in that. John Tildesley, thank you very much indeed. If you think you can help in any way, particularly if you've got any suspicions about anyone who acted oddly that night, it's Good Friday, remember. If you might have seen something relevant, if you have any thoughts, please don't just keep things to yourself. Our number, 018118055. This is live, so the detectives are here right now. Or you can ask for the Shani Warren Incident Room on Slough 31282. That's 0753, the code for Slough, 31282. Constructions is yet another that highlights the dangers of hitchhiking. Now, young people, especially young women, of course, know the risks of hitchhiking. But the truth is, if you don't have a bike or a car and there are no buses where you want to go when you want to go, the temptation to hitch is overwhelming. Rachel Partridge took that risk. She was 17 years old. Our reconstruction starts on Tuesday, the 25th of August, near her home in Oxfordshire. This is the village of Chinner, just off the M40 and some 10 miles from High Wycombe. Rachel had just started an apprenticeship there at Rowan's Dental Laboratory. She joined the firm straight from school, and they were very impressed with her ability and hard work. Rachel lived with her parents in the countryside at Chinner Hill, a mile from Chinner village. At 17, she was the youngest of the family. Her 2 elder sisters had left home.
Oh, it's really lovely. I can't wait.
That Tuesday evening, after work, as she did most evenings, Rachel went to see her boyfriend. They'd met at school, and in 3 days' time were due to go on their first holiday together in Italy.
I picked up your passport from your mum the other
Did
day.
you?
Mm-hmm.
What's it?
Well,
I bet yours is awful. Let me
That's
see.
all
Let me
right.
see. Oh, that'd be Mum. I better not keep her waiting.
OK.
I'll give you a ring later, OK? Bye.
Bye-bye. Though Rachel's mother had specially driven down to the village to bring her home, Rachel announced that she had other plans that night.
Mum, can you take me to Alex's? I want to use a sunbed.
No, I can't tonight, Rachel. Your father needs the car for a meeting.
But she's expecting me.
I can't help that. Your father needs the car now.
Rachel couldn't be persuaded. She didn't want to go home, and there wasn't time to drive her to her friends in Thame. So her mother turned around and, at Rachel's request, left her back in the village. Once there, Rachel met a colleague from work and cadged a lift to Thame to use her friend's sunbed.
Right, that's on. Remember, it's only 10 minutes.
Only 10? Oh, I don't want to be all white and horrible on the beach.
If it's any longer than that, you're going to be all red and horrible.
After using the sunbed, Rachel had the problem of getting home. Her boyfriend heard she was somewhere in Thame and knew there were no buses back, so he went to look for her. Ironically, he drove right past the road where Rachel was. Rachel had no way home now except to hitch a lift.
Slightly, yes.
Oh no, how many have I got?
Oh, you'll get them when you get tanned anyway.
Oh, thanks for the sunbed.
That's all right.
Take care, I'll send you a postcard.
Right. Have a good time.
I will.
Bye.
15 minutes later, at 5 to 9, Rachel was seen by a motorist thumbing a lift just past the railway bridge on the Chinner Road. She was walking in the direction of her home. The Chinner Road is a busy one, and moments later she was seen again by a couple who were driving slowly, looking for an address. They turned round at the Garden City roundabout, and as they drove back up the road, they noticed a parked van. They think it was white, and only one headlamp seemed to be working properly. The hitchhiker was talking to the driver. Just after 9, another motorist saw Rachel standing on the grass verge of the Garden City roundabout. This is the outskirts of Thame. Beyond this point, there are no streetlights. Rachel was frightened of the dark, and there were 6 miles of black country lanes between Rachel and her home at Chinner Hill. Back in Chinner, her boyfriend was ringing round to find where Rachel was. She'd promised to call him, but it was now 10:30. When he found she still wasn't at home, he began to worry.
Hello, I'm trying to reach my girlfriend Rachel. She said
Eventually, he found the friend's number in Thame and rang to see if she was there. She wasn't.
Is Alex in? No. Did Alex's note say which pub she was going to? All right, the Three Horseshoes at Towersey. Yes, I know that.
Stephen drove to Towersey and checked the pub, but the girls weren't there. He drove on into Thame, but at 11 o'clock, he gave up looking. Next morning, 7 miles from Thame and 2.5 miles from Rachel's home lies Bledlow Ridge. A small track runs from the road to Callowdown Farm. Back in August, these hedgerows were overgrown and the fields were full of ripened corn. At 11:40, 2 farm workers saw someone lying in the corner of the barn. They discovered the naked body of a young woman. There was blood around her head and neck. Rachel had been struck heavily on the face, sexually assaulted and asphyxiated. The man who's seeking Rachel's killer is Roy Payne. How can people help?
We need anyone who travelled along the road from Thame in Oxfordshire to Bledlow Ridge, which is just over the border in Buckinghamshire, who may have given Rachel a lift that night or who saw her being given a lift by anybody else. We need them to contact us.
Now, it's difficult to think back to Tuesday the 25th of August. It was the last Tuesday before August bank holiday, wasn't it? Now, there was that white van that we saw at Garden City roundabout that had stopped there. Have you traced anybody to do with that yet?
No, that is another vehicle which we are trying to trace. It will be seen it had a defective offside headlamp. The driver spoke to Rachel. We need to trace the driver and find out what the conversation was about.
Right, and eliminate him, of course.
And eliminate him from the
now,
inquiry.
remind us where this is. For people who don't know the area very well, it's on the B4445 from Thame to Chinner, and her body, of course, was found in the barn. Now, tell us that's where she left from Thame, heading towards her home just outside Chinner. Now, that's where she was found. Was anyone seen around that barn?
At the moment we are trying to establish and trace anyone that has any connection with the barn or who may have visited the barn. And about 3 weeks prior to the murder, during the early hours of the morning, a small white Ford Fiesta was seen leaving that area, driven by a young man who's described as being about 20 years of age, 6 feet tall, athletic build, with long dark hair. That is an artist's impression of him. He has been seen previously in the Chinner area when he'd been dressed very dark clothing and a gold-coloured necklace with a very large gold-coloured cross upon it.
Now, you've brought the most extraordinary thing here. Sorry, may I reach across you?
Certainly.
This is a plaster cast that was found in the barn. It doesn't look terribly realistic as a foot, of course, because it is a cast of a moving foot. What do you know about the size?
This is actually a reconstruction of what we believe the foot looked like that made the mark we found. It's a minimum size, 8 to 8.5 G fitting, very large, wide foot. The foot is believed to be made by a man, and if that's the case, because of the width, he may well have taken a size 10 upwards in shoes.
You also found, just so people know, some tyre tracks of a particularly distinctive sort of tyre. What was the make of it?
It's a Lee Conquest, which is an economy tyre. Some of the tracks outside were made by a tyre of this description, and we need to trace anyone that's visited the barn who has any of those tyres fitted to vehicles.
There's an appeal fund being set up by the local community. It's already reached several £1,000s. Please do call us if you can help, right now. Here's the number, 01811 8055, 01811 8055, or you can dial the incident room at Aylesbury, 0296 is the code for Aylesbury, 395 010. Normally, the police are reluctant to go hunting for missing people. In a free society, adults, of course, have a right to walk out on their family and friends. But for this disappearing man, as you'll see, free choice isn't a very convincing explanation. His car was found abandoned with its keys in the ignition about 30 miles from where he lived, and most who knew him now fear the worst. John Cobbett, you're most reluctant to use the M word, as it were, and yet, to all intents and purposes, you are treating this case as though it were a murder. Now, why?
Well, I think initially the way that his car was abandoned, that raised our fears at first, and then as time went on, a week later after his disappearance, we had an anonymous phone call that his body was near a lake in the Slough area. This was obviously checked and it was negative. But also from talking to his close friends and building up a picture of Andrew Elphick, we feel that this is totally out of character for him to disappear under these circumstances.
Well, Andrew Elphick was his name, 21 years old. He lived in Normandy near Guildford in Surrey. His father works abroad and his mother died when he was young. But Andrew was fairly self-assured. In fact, we understand he was more self-possessed than we've portrayed him in the film that follows. His older brother, Robert, helps describe his lifestyle and his personality. Did you know Andrew Elphick? Or do you know anyone who did?
Andrew was a very outgoing young man. He liked to live his life to the full. He enjoyed socialising with his friends, going to parties. Very successful with the ladies. He set himself goals. You know, he wanted the nice things in life. He was always trying to think of ways in which he could make money. He took a lot of pride in his car. He wouldn't let anyone smoke in his car, for example. He certainly wouldn't leave his car unattended with the keys in the ignition and open to be stolen or tampered with by a passerby. You know, he definitely wasn't as streetwise as he may have thought, you know, perhaps a little bit overconfident in that area. Could have got himself into difficulties through that.
Put them all up. I don't need any change.
Andrew was a relief manager for Moss Bros, the men's clothing chain. It's Thursday, August the 15th, 8 days before he disappeared.
I've never seen this much money before.
He produced £5,000 in cash and kept it for the day in the safe at the back of the shop.
A few weeks before he disappeared, Andrew said that if he came into a large sum of money, he would invest it in drugs, as he thought he'd get a quick return. And that's out of character for Andrew because he doesn't take drugs. He likes to look after himself. He doesn't smoke, doesn't really drink much. So that's, you know, that was out of character as well.
Sasha, Kavita Erkadu and several other friends were with Andrew at a barbecue in Guildford on Saturday, August the 17th, 6 days before he disappeared.
He said that he was due to come into a lot of money soon, and when he did, he'd take me out to dinner that week. And I said, well, where are you getting the money from? And he said, it's just bad business, I can't tell you If I could, I would.
During the evening, he talked to some people he used to go to school with.
I haven't seen you for a long time. How's it going?
I've been away travelling around Australia.
Yeah, I've been there. Didn't do much of it. So what, you into drugs? Why is that?
They assumed he must be joking when he talked about drugs. He said he could make a lot of money out of them.
Well, I got 50 kilos of heroin in my garden shed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure.
He told me that he was due to go to a club in London called the SW1 Club. I asked him if I could go with him, and he said, no, there's no way you can go. I can't take you. It's for members only.
But eventually, instead of going up to London, Andrew went back home and took Kavita with him.
He was just chatting to me, being quite open. I just got the impression that basically he wanted a good friend to talk to that evening. We're lying on the bed, fully clothed, just kissing and cuddling. We were just dozing off. We had our arms around each other, I remember. All of a sudden, he shot out of bed and said,
Dad, I've got to make a phone call.
Oh, are you doing it this time?
I recall him picking up the phone. He didn't refer to an address book, dialed the number. I got the impression he was talking into an answer machine because he wasn't answering back to anybody.
Sorry to blow you out, mate. I'll be in touch later.
Throughout the next week, life for Andrew apparently went on as normal, but no one seems to know what happened to the £5,000. He didn't seem to have the money when his brother phoned on Thursday night.
How's it going anyway? Fine. Oh, hey, listen, you know that 600 I owe you? Yeah. Well, I should be able to get to you in a couple of weeks. Oh, that'd be good.
Andrew brought up the subject of the money, but I didn't bring the conversation up.
All right, I'll see you later. Bye. Bye.
On the Friday, the day he vanished, Andrew had the day off work and spent some time taking up the trousers of a dinner suit he'd hired for a party that weekend.
Yeah, looks like we've got a good weekend lined up. What with the party and my barbecue party.
Yeah. How many people are going?
Oh, about 15.
Yeah?
Yeah, plenty of women. We planned a lot that weekend. We had 2 parties going on.
Around 6 o'clock, a friend came round to see them.
Where are you off to tonight? Out.
Well, who with? A girl?
Could be.
He was very reluctant to say where he was going that night, very cagey, although he led us to believe he was seeing a lady friend.
Kavita?
And we prodded him with names. He actually agreed to one.
Yeah, that's right.
After a lot of prodding.
Andrew left home at 8:30 p.m, saying he was late for an appointment. He never came home. John Cobbett, was it all a joke, or was he dealing in drugs?
We can't say for certain whether he was dealing in drugs. There was a lot of talk prior to his disappearance of drugs, and we have to take that seriously. Although we know that, we believe that Andrew wasn't involved in drugs himself, but perhaps he got involved and got involved in a bad deal.
There is quite a substantial reward, isn't there, that's been put out on this by his father?
Yes, that's right. £5,000 leading to the whereabouts of Andrew.
Right. Anything to do with his whereabouts that actually proves it will get that reward?
That is true, yes.
The SW1 Club, now, we don't know if this had any relationship to his drug dealing or if that's what he was involved in at all. Might have been some perfectly innocent agreement he had to meet someone there, if indeed he was meeting anyone there at all.
That's true. What we'd like is anybody from who frequents the SW1 club to get in contact with us that might know Andrew or who knows him, that can help us build up the picture.
Even if they don't think they know anything about the circumstances of his disappearance?
That's right.
And presumably, too, you'd like to speak to whoever he phoned at 4 o'clock in the morning on that Friday night?
Well, that's
or
right.
Saturday morning?
That's right. I mean, that may have been somebody at the SW1 club, we don't know. But, I mean, we'd obviously like to hear from whoever he did phone up.
The car was abandoned in the Northborough estate in Slough, as I said, about 30 miles from where he lived. You need witnesses for that?
Yes, if anybody saw that car being driven onto that estate, we'd like to hear from them.
OK. Well, Andrew had everything to live for. If you can help in any way, please call us. That's the number, 081 811 8181. Or you can call Farnham Police Station. That's on 0252 716 262. 0252 is the code for Farnham, 716262. And incidentally, if someone close to you is missing, you might like to call the Missing Persons Helpline, which has been set up by the Susie Lamplugh Trust. The number is 071 580 5005. That's 071 580 5005.
That has now become a matter of real urgency. 9-year-old Daniel Handley from Beckton in East London went missing sometime late in the afternoon of Sunday the 2nd of October, just over a month ago. His mother was expecting him home by 6. He didn't turn up. Several people saw Danny during the course of that afternoon, most of whom have taken part in our reconstruction.
Did you get any new computer games? Yeah, I got Street Fighter and Haunted House. Oh, wicked. I'll come round tomorrow then. All right. I've got to go home now because my mum wants me back. OK then, I'll see you tomorrow then. Bye.
Please, can I help you?
Yes, my son's gone missing.
Can I have your name and telephone number, please?
Yes, my name is Maxine Handley. I'm calling from a call box. I've been looking around, but I can't find him anywhere. He was supposed to be home by 6 o'clock, and I'm getting really worried.
How would you describe Daniel?
He's 9, almost 10. This is the most recent photograph of him. He's about 4'2", with short blonde hair and a bit of a ponytail at the back. He's really friendly. He'd help anyone.
We know that he lived at home with his mother, Maxine, and her new boyfriend, Alex. Obviously, we can't discount the possibility that Daniel's been abducted, that he's been taken away from the street against his will. There have been a number of sightings on the 2nd of October and a number of statements taken. And what I'm hoping is that there is something contained within those statements, within those sightings, somewhere that there will be a clue that would help us in the discovery of Daniel's whereabouts.
Excuse me, would you like me to take your trolley?
Oh, right, OK, thanks.
Whereabouts is your car?
It's just over there.
Do you want me to take the trolley back?
You want the £1 deposit?
That's right.
Daniel was a chatty, confident child, and he would literally talk to anybody.
I thought you were only doing night shifts.
I do, but I'm on earlies this week.
Daniel was riding a very, very distinctive bike at the time he disappeared. As you can see, it doesn't have a saddle. The frame of the bike was silver, and it had black tyres with white walls. It was, in fact, a mock-up BMX bike.
Mom! Mom! Mom!
Oh, don't shout. I'm not on the other side of the street.
Found these letters.
How'd you get these?
They were sticking out of a letterbox with Old House.
Oh, clever little sod.
Can I go out again?
OK. We'll be back by 6. OK?
OK.
That was the last time I see Danny, was that afternoon. He was happy. He come in. And he went back out to play. But he's friendly, loving, and he gets on with everybody. He hasn't got an enemy in the world.
How often did Daniel come round?
Nearly every day. He's Alan's best friend. He used to stay quite often.
What about that afternoon?
Just playing outside, in and out all day, down the shops. And I was playing games upstairs in Alan's room.
Boing! Oh, and he misses! Oh no, and he's gone! Oh, look, it's going now, man. This is getting boring. Let's go to the sweet shop.
Did anything happen while they were out?
Daniel's brother come round and told me that his mum said he had to go straight home.
Can't I stay?
No, not tonight. Maybe next week.
Just get my keys.
All right. What have you been up to then?
I just went down to the sweet shop.
What'd you get?
Just a couple of sweets.
Take care then.
Alan and Daniel are very good friends. They was always together. It's like having another son about.
Come here tomorrow then.
He was just like, he's like Alan's brother.
Alright, see you tomorrow then. Alright, bye.
Did you see him again?
That was the last time I saw him.
It's clearly very important that we pinpoint the exact location where this child disappeared from. So exactly how many sightings have there been?
There have been a number of other sightings, sir. At 6 p.m, Alex, who is Maxine's boyfriend,
He's walking along Tollgate Road with a friend towards the junction with Garnet Walk.
Yeah, look, it's Daniel. Here, Daniel. What? You've got to get home, your mum's expecting you.
I know.
What are you doing there, mate?
I'm trying to fix my bike. Every time I put my chain on, it keeps coming back off.
There are children that say they saw Daniel playing at 6:30 p.m. on the evening here in Sorrel Gardens.
It was about 7 o'clock and I come out of my house in Wintergreen Close. I was walking towards Yarra Crescent and all of a sudden some boy on his bike just went zooming past.
What did he look like?
I think it's about 8 or 9 and he had a red top on. Then I walked towards Yarra Crescent and there was this bike just sitting on the floor, laying there.
What you got there, Nish?
I found it on the corner.
You take it back where you got it from because somebody might come for that.
Alright.
Did you take it back immediately?
No, I waited for a little while and then I took it back.
The bike didn't stay there long.
And what time did it move again?
As far as we know, at about 9 o'clock, 2 men moved it and eventually handed it into police, following the appeals on the TV.
The search for Daniel has involved hundreds of officers who have trawled every area of open land in Beckton where he lived. The police say they've now...
Daniel's disappearance has really affected Alan in quite a bad way. Now he just goes to his room, plays upstairs, which him and Daniel used to do all the time.
I feel very depressed, I feel numb. I'm worried about him. I don't sleep, and I just want him home.
Mr. Williams, what do you and your team think might have happened to Danny?
Well, there are a number of possibilities. Firstly, it's possible that Daniel has simply run away from home, which I think is now unlikely. Second possibility is that he may be with some individual that's looking after Daniel, unaware of the uproar that Daniel's disappearance has actually caused. There is a third possibility, and this is my very real fear, that Daniel has been abducted by paedophiles who mean Daniel harm.
In which case he could be well out of London by now.
Absolutely, he could be anywhere in the United Kingdom.
Since we made our film there, you've had some new information.
I have, and this is what I consider to be a very important sighting. At about 6:30 p.m. on Sunday the 2nd of October, which is the day that Daniel disappeared, a car was seen parked in Tollgate Road, not far from the junction with Columbine Avenue. There were a couple of things that were unusual about this car. First of all, it was facing in the wrong direction, so it's facing oncoming traffic. Secondly, it was a 4-door car, and the rear offside passenger door of the car was open, and a man was standing by that open door with a map or book in his hand, and he was talking to a child, who I believe may have been Daniel, who was actually straddling a bicycle and leaning forward on the handlebars. Now, after a few moments, that man seems to have got back into the car, and the child, if it was Daniel, rode away. And the witnesses say that at that point, the car moved off too. However, a couple of moments later, the car was seen parked on the opposite side of the road, and, as we know, Daniel thereafter disappeared.
So it is absolutely vital to find out who these two men are and the car and to eliminate them from the inquiry.
It is absolutely vital, yes, crucial.
There are likely, aren't there, to have been more people who saw Daniel that afternoon who you don't know about yet?
Quite so. Now, the particular scene I've just mentioned, we know that a man and woman walked past. Now, I would actually like to trace both the occupants of the silver dark grey car that was parked in Tollgate Road. I would also like to trace the couple who were walking past. I'd be very interested to hear from them.
And you'd love to hear from somebody, presumably, who either saw Daniel abandon his bike or being abducted.
Yes, I would like to know whether Daniel actually walked away from that bike, which was found in Wintergreen Close, or whether somebody snatched him from it.
Well, he's a friendly boy, and he trusts adults, so he could have gone off with somebody. The longer that Danny remains missing, the greater our concern must be for his safety. If you've seen Danny anywhere in the last 4 weeks, please let the incident room know or call us here now. The number here in the studio is 0500 600 600. The direct line to the incident room is 071 275 5452. There it is, 071 275 5452. Find 9-year-old Daniel Handley from Beckton in East London. He'd disappeared on Sunday, October the 2nd. But as the weeks turned into months, hopes of finding Daniel alive began to dwindle. And finally, on March the 27th, the investigation became a full-scale murder inquiry when a child's body was discovered near Bristol. So now, once again, we're appealing for your help. Detective Superintendent Ed Williams here is running the inquiry, and with his help, our film pieces together now as much as is known about Daniel's disappearance so far.
Okay then, I'll see you tomorrow then, bye.
Soon after Daniel's mother reported his disappearance on the 2nd of October, we organised what is perhaps the biggest police search ever in London for a missing child. Daniel was riding a very, very distinctive bike at the time he disappeared. As you can see, it doesn't have a saddle. The frame of the bike was silver.
On March the 27th, Daniel's remains were discovered on an isolated piece of land off Trench Lane near the Bradley Stoke estate on the outskirts of Bristol.
We believe that Daniel was abducted by paedophiles. Maybe Daniel stopped off on the journey from London to Bristol on the motorway. Perhaps he was even kept here on the Bradley Stoke North estate in a house on the estate.
Discovery of a boy's body in Trench Lane. I wondered if I could ask you some questions. Yeah, certainly.
It could be that Daniel was kept in Wales. One thing we are certain of is that Daniel's burial site was no accident. We believe that whoever left Daniel here knew this area. Very important that we pinpoint the exact location. One of the things to come out of our investigation after the Crimewatch reconstruction was filmed was that at 6:30 p.m. on Sunday the 2nd of October, a passing motorist saw a silver or grey car, and we're not certain of the make or model. A passenger from that car was actually talking to a boy that we believe was Daniel.
There was a second man in the driver's seat. The motorist was concerned enough to turn and drive back. He saw the car pull across to the other side of Tollgate Road.
These men have not come forward. It is vital that we find out who they are and anyone else who may have seen them.
A short alleyway connects Tollgate Road with Wintergreen Close, which is where a short time later Daniel's bike was found abandoned. Well, Ed, now that Daniel's body has been discovered in the Bristol area, that's opened up a whole new area of information there, hasn't it?
It has indeed, and although I'm not in a position to release too much information at this stage for strategic reasons, it is correct to say that there have been a number of sightings of a child that we firmly believe to be Daniel. On the first occasion that Daniel was seen in the company of men, he looked fairly comfortable, but unfortunately on the second occasion he looked quite distressed. He appeared to be hoisted between two men, held by the wrists, and was virtually a prisoner, we believe.
And you are convinced that was Daniel? He was wearing the red tracksuit?
We've got good cause to believe that we have reliable evidence that this was Daniel.
How long do you think he was alive after being taken to Bristol?
There's every possibility that he was alive for at least 10 to 12 days after being taken from London to Bristol.
And you mentioned there a Wales connection. Do you think he might have been taken to Wales during that time?
It's a possibility. He could have been taken over the Severn Bridge. He could have been kept in a holiday home, a caravan or a chalet, either in Wales or in the southwest somewhere. And I believe that if anybody has information about a child recently or after the 2nd of October taken into a holiday community, I'd like them to contact us.
And you're desperate to find the silver or grey saloon car and the people in it?
Yes, I am. On the 2nd of October 1994, when that car was parked in Tollgate Road, there were two men in that car. One of those men was on the pavement actually talking to Daniel. Now, neither of those men has come forward, and neither has the couple that were allegedly walking past at the time. I'm still anxious to trace those men, that couple, and that car, which by now may well have been destroyed, abandoned, or indeed even stored somewhere. I'm anxious to hear from any member of the public who, after the 2nd of October 1994, in London or in Bristol, knows of a silver or grey car that comes into the category of being a Lada, a Nissan or a Skoda that has been abandoned or burnt out or anything of that kind. If it's suspicious, let us know.
Edwards, thank you very much. If you have seen anything, if anything you've just seen in the film has jogged your memory or awakened your suspicions in any way, if you saw that grey or silver saloon car and the two men near the Tollgate Road, please do call. You can ring the studio here tonight on 0500 600 600 or ring the incident room, and that's 0181 503 1212. That's 0181 503 1212.
Aftermath of a crime that last month became a major news item.
Roxanne there, please?
Yeah, Roxanne?
Yeah. Hello, can we come in, please?
Yeah, certainly.
Thank you. Thanks. Do you want to sit down? I've got some very sad news. It's about your mother.
Janet Brown lived in the village of Radnage in Buckinghamshire. Her murder achieved huge publicity because, to put it bluntly, she was attractive, she was affluent, and she was found naked in her home. In fact, there's no evidence of a sexual element to the crime. It seems she may have woken to find an intruder. Her husband works in Switzerland, and of their 3 children, only the youngest, Roxanne, still lived at home, so they were trying to sell the house.
She was a wonderful mum. She was very kind and caring, very good listener. She always understood me very well and never bossed me around. I miss her so much. And she was a great friend as well as a mum.
Hello.
Hi, it's me.
Oh, hi. How are you doing?
Fine. Any more news from our house, back?
Well, he's still keen.
And I'm still hoping to get back at the weekend. Depends how things go here, of course.
She was a super person. She was warm and friendly. She was very loyal to her family. She looked after the kids very well. And as well as that, she was quite a determined person, quite a plucky person.
Early morning call.
Thanks. Oh, darling, you know the builders are coming today. And since you're on holiday...
What are they doing?
They're going to fix the barn roof.
Oh.
So can you make sure they're okay? I shall leave a key out in case they need to get in.
In the kitchen.
What are you doing today?
I've got a driving lesson this morning.
Oh.
I can't believe you passed first time. You told me you're going to fail.
Do you fancy coming out?
I'd love to.
You can stay over if you like.
OK, I'll tell my mum I won't be back tonight. Right, my driving instructor's here. See you later.
Everything okay?
Yeah, no problem.
Janet's initial training was as a nurse and a midwife, and then after many years off looking after the kids, she had recently returned to work, and her current project was to examine the possibility of there being a link between infertility treatment and the ultimate development of cancer in women.
No one remembers Janet leaving work that day, but she'd normally have gone home at roughly 5:30.
I'd been out riding for about an hour and was heading home on Spriggs Holly Lane when I noticed Janet heading towards me, heading away from her house and towards Radnage. She appeared to be preoccupied with something. Normally she'd slow down as I was on a horse, but on this occasion she didn't. I don't remember that she was in her own car.
Fancy use your phone? I just want to give Mum a quick ring at home. Yeah, sure. Thanks.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm feeling really tired. I think I'm going to go to bed early. What time are you coming back tomorrow?
Lunchtime probably.
Oh, OK. I'll leave the alarm on.
Okay.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.
We know Janet also took a call from one of Roxanne's friends. That was at 8:10. It was the last we know of anyone who talked to her.
Can I have a fillet of beef, please?
Yeah.
Can I have the charcoal salmon with aubergines and peppers?
Yeah.
And I'll have the roast saddle of lamb, please.
Thank you.
Here's to you passing your driving test. And then I won't have to carry you around everywhere. I'm trying my best. And then he came over and he said, "Can I go out with you?" Oh my God, really? Really?
I was driving along Spriggs Holly Lane towards Radnage and just past the Brown's house on my left in an area locally known as the Triangle. I saw a car parked quite a way back off of the road. We take note of this sort of thing because of the burglars that have been around here in the past, and it makes us suspicious if we see cars parked at this time of night.
I've put the extra in because I had a
No,
dessert.
don't be silly.
No, honestly.
No, we'll split the bill.
You
Sure.
sure?
What's that noise? Christ.
There's no easy way to tell you this. I've got some very sad news. We went to your house earlier today and we found a person there who was dead. We believe that person to be your mother.
Michael Short, with so little to go on, I suppose it's a bit naive to suggest that maybe someone went home with a lot of blood on them that night.
I don't think so. Without going into details, we know that the person who carried out this act must have been heavily bloodstained. And so I would appeal to anybody, friend, relative, who knows anything, to come forward. In addition, such a brutal murder as that, somebody must have spoken. The person who did it must have confided in somebody. So I really would ask anybody to come forward to stop it happening again. In addition, there is a £10,000 reward.
We're talking about Monday the 10th of April, which is the week leading up to Easter, and somebody that evening would have gone home with really a lot of blood.
A lot, there's no doubt at all about that, a lot of blood.
Now, the only other things that you might have as clues, we've got some things here which come from them. That taping of the window, which is a very peculiar thing to do, which was using this sellotape all-weather tape, which is a sort of rather unusual thing, not only to do, but substance to use.
That's right. It's not common. It's not the normal sellotape. It's used just to repair greenhouses and cloches. Sellotape have only supplied 1,300 in this year to local area. So it is unusual. And if you couple that with the other items...
Now, the other items are that this was used to restrain her as well. This is just all masking tape. And obviously, people can buy that all over the place. These handcuffs, which were used to restrain her as well, again, I mean, these presumably are fairly common, these things.
Yeah, they're ever so common, and we certainly wouldn't be able to trace where they came from. But again, you've got to add to that the glass cutter, the instrument that was used to break the window. All most unusual things. If you put them together, it could well mean something to somebody.
So what you want is somebody who maybe sold somebody a whole variety of these things together, somebody who can put together a picture, or a jigsaw puzzle, as it were.
Absolutely, or anybody's seen people with it.
Now, Janet Brown was going in her car, it seems, that evening, away from home at 6:30. Now, what do you know about that?
We know nothing. It's certainly she was going away from where she normally shopped and where she normally got petrol. So we would really like anybody to come forward who she went to meet, to visit. In addition, we still know very little about Janet. We'd like anybody that a friend of hers has seen her in restaurants, seen her anywhere in the weeks leading up to her death, to come forward.
OK, well, if there's any way that you can help, if you can eliminate that car scene in the local triangle, do please call. Detective Superintendent Michael Short and his team are waiting for your call, either here in the studio, 0500 600 600, or you can reach their colleagues in the incident room. That's on 01 296 396 333. 01 296, the code for Aylesbury, 396 333.